Hi, hello everyone. So we are moving on to the next part of Hudson's Some Ways of Understanding Literature, or in the introduction to literature, wherein Hudson is the author is saying that you need to understand the author right at the initial stage of your understanding of literature, right at the initial stage of your research on literature. Why he's saying so is that by understanding or by analyzing the influences of the author, you will be able to go into the depth of the author's influences, the author's experiments, the author's experience, the author's feelings, his emotions, his passions. So it's kind of an analytical approach on the author. So in order to do that, the suggestion that is put forward by W H Hudson is to go through one of the biographies of the author. You need to go through the biography of the author. So what Hudson is saying, that if we can go directly into the biography of an author, you will be able to really understand the influences and the experiences of the author, wherein he brought in a lot of light onto the character, onto the effect in which he wrote or he drew uh, the work. So basically, what biography can do is that it is a genuine tool in order to understand literature, as per Hudson. So there is no doubt that the judicious use of a good biography it can certainly be useful in the study of literature. The study of author's biography helps us to understand the works of that author in a pretty good manner, in a better way actually. So it makes us familiar with his life, his experiences, his thoughts, the ideologies in which he believed, the passions, the emotions, and the feelings, the influences in general, political, social, or economical influences in which the author went through during his time, during his period. For example, during the period of Queen Elizabeth I, the influences in politics, in social, economic, and other aspects have been clearly depicted by William Shakespeare. Hudson is also bringing in the example of William Shakespeare here by giving us a suggestion that there are actually a twofold suggestion into the understanding of biography. The first thing, as per Hudson, is that it's a good biography which alone can be of service to us. A good biography in the sense a sincere biography, which in fact reflects the the real thoughts and ideologies, the real influences behind a great author. The second thing that we should understand is that we have to use the biography pretty much judicially. Judicially, in the sense that there are a number of other biographies as well, which are written for the sake of writing, and those biographies, we cannot expect a positive aspect from those biographies, in which the biography uh, might be written by another person who would like to give some boost to the image of the author. In fact, it's kind of praising the author. Some of the biographies are or were written uh, by paying cash to the publishers. It works to the writers also. It works. So while selecting the biography, as readers, as students of literature, you should be very careful. You should have to use your intelligence and intelligence in a judicial manner, so that you would be able to understand the writer in the practical sense, so that you'll be able to understand his writings in the right manner. So Hudson is moving on with the practical aspects of using biographies as a student of literature. Now, there are a number of biographies which pass under the name of literary biography, but they have nothing literary in the literal sense. There is nothing inside those biographies. What we need as students of literature is that we need some value based approach in the biography. There should be literally some kind of literal sense should be there in the biographies which we select. There may have, the other kind of biographies, in the sense that the low quality or the praising quality, the stuff in which the writer would like to emboss or praise the author in such a manner that he would be able to get some kind of applause. And those biographies, the second type of biographies, you can find futile explanations or trivial explanations of his personal belongings, or sometimes his personal approaches, personal influences. In general, we can call it gossips. The gossips about his private life, with which a student of literature has no concern at all. We are absolutely of no concern about the private life of an author, be it any author. We are not at all care about their private life, their personal influences, their personal emotions, or their personal feelings. We are not at all bothered at. But the feelings and emotions in which they became a writer, that is something different. The influences which completely changed the person from a beginner to a great writer would also be of real interesting and extremely riveting for a student of literature. We would be calibrated by such thoughts of a writer. So many biographies talks about the houses of great writers, the locations, the estates of the great writers, the furnitures, their dresses, which we are not at all care about. We're not at all interested in such things. Sometimes you can find the craze of personal details is often kind of nurtured by the press and the media, and also which is actually hardly carries any literary significance. We not at all care about that. There is nothing literary in that. So Hudson says that while reading literary biography, we must not deal with the external information that has absolutely nothing to do with the literal value of the writer's work. We must focus on those facts only which we have connection with the works of the writer. Thus, a biography can be useful to us only if it is used judicially, sensibly, wisely, and with utmost care, as per Hudson. So, as students of literature, as students of language, we should be at most, we should possess, or we should have to showcase some kind of utmost care, and your values should be judicious when you select a biography of a writer. And to make us aware of the abuses of biography, Hudson suggests there are two important things which designs the abuses of biography. Firstly, he says that we must make sure that it should be It should not be idle and impertinent gossip about unimportant things. The biography should not be, uh, you know, idle and impertinent gossip, some kind of no value, value, without any kind of literal sense in it. We are not at all interested in such kind of biographies. That's the first thing that we should take care in of our mind about selection of biographies. And that's one of the abuses of biographies as well. And secondly, we must distinguish between the reading of biography as a piece of literature, and there is another thing as well, reading of biography as a commentary by some other writers. We are not at all interested in those commentaries by some other writers about a great writer, about a great personality, which we are not interested in. So we should consider it as a biography as a piece of literature, not as a commentary. That he was like this, he used to do that. Without him, the country or the work could not have this much of image. We not at all care about those things. We don't need. We just need the influences behind the thoughts and ideologies that worked really well in the setting up of a work. In understanding, we just want to understand a particular work of the writer in the right and the proper manner. We must read biography in connection with the writer's works. As he mentioned before, as W H Hudson mentioned before, we should have to compare and contrast the works of the writer. So while doing that particular aspect, what will be, you'll be coming into contact with the essence of the author. There are different approaches in which you can analyze an author. You can interpret the works of author. But Hudson is keeping in a lot of force. He's exerting a lot of pressure on biography, because he is saying that biography is one of the authentic record, a genuine record, if it is written for the sake of the understanding the real values of an author. Hudson is bringing in the examples of Dante and Goethe. Alighieri Dante, the great Italian writer Alighieri Dante, and Wolfgang Goethe, the German writer. He's bringing in both these great writers to suggest that many times the literary works cannot be understood without the use of biography. Because the biographies written for Dante and Goethe is entirely the opposite of their real life. We cannot actually justify, or we cannot actually understand the real Goethe or the real Dante by reading the biography of them. It's very much difficult, as per Hudson, to understand the works, understand the influences and passions, the feelings and emotions of Dante and Goethe, if you read the biography of both these writers, because it's completely detached from the life of these great personalities. Their works are highly confessional in nature. Their works have some kind of personal, heavily personal involvement. Whereas there are some writers whose works and their life has no connection. Dante's and Goethe's works have great connection between their works and their personal life, which we won't be able to understand through the biography, through their biography. But there are some other writers who has written a lot of biographies about great personalities, through which we won't be able to understand whether their life has got any kind of influence in their works. If one tries to read Johnson's works in connection with his life, he will not find anything, absolutely nothing useful in biography. He's bringing in Dr. Samuel Johnson here. Dr. Samuel Johnson, the first lexicographer, the first person who created a dictionary for English language. So Hudson is bringing in Dr. Samuel Johnson as an example here. If you try to read Johnson's works in connection with his life, entirely the opposite. You will not find any kind of personal involvement or influences. The feelings, everything is being hidden there. He conceals everything in his works. Hudson makes it clear that the study of biography is not the study of literature. It should never be made a substitute for it. That's also an important point that's been bringing into the mainstream by Hudson. You can't always rely on biography, but the good biographies can give you a lot of interesting topics, interesting aspects about the writer's works, the writer's life, his life and his works. So we cannot substitute literature with the biography. Hudson also insists on the cultivation of the spirit of sympathy while reading the biography. It's kind of, you need to step into the shoes of the author. You are trying to understand the author. You are, walking behind the author. You are trying to get influenced by the thoughts and ideologies. That's where of influence for the author. As a student, you should be passionate and you should be following the author in the right sense. You should also feel some kind of sympathy, the spirit of sympathy towards the author, so that you would be able to understand the influences in which he brought a particular work. So our reading of the writer shall not be influenced by the comments of the biographer. The comments of the biographer cannot be taken into consideration as a motivating thought for a student of literature. It has a different approach, it has a different viewpoint, wherein the biographer would like to bring in the attention of the author himself here by praising him, by simply giving him some kind of status there. No one has the right to impose his own judgment upon us. If the biographer is giving some kind of positive note about the author, it's your opinion that matters here. It is your idea, it's your interpretation which matters here, not the biographer's interpretation. No one has actually the right to impose their own ideas to us. You are students of literature. You have the sole right, you have the sole privilege to interpret a book in the right manner. There are many interpreters. There are many critics. There are many people who, explain many things about different works. Those can be taken as a reference, but the final judgment should be yours. The final opinion, the final idea, the final interpretation should be yours because you are a student of literature. So think of that way. So in that way, what Hudson is bringing in is indicating the possible uses and abuses of biography. While studying the writer's biography, it will be kind of helping a lot of understanding. It will help you understand his works in better way. But simultaneously, we must be aware of its uses and abuses as per W H Hudson. So think judiciously. Read biographies. Read biographies in order to understand the influences and the thoughts and ideologies of the writer, of the author. But you should have a clear and vivid calculation, a clear picture about your opinion should come by the end, by reading a biography. Please don't rely on biographers' comments. Please don't rely on interpreters' comment, which we are not at all interested in. Because, while reading a biography, you should have, or your thoughts should be calibrated first. It should be accelerated in such a manner that you have that capacity to analyze and evaluate the writer in the right sense. So think that way and bring up with good ideas and thoughts about Hudson's view. Thank you so much, and thanks for your attention. See you in the next part.